science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
Cockatoos with attitude. Cockatude.
Hello, and welcome to Cockatude, Cockatoos with Attitude. My name is Don Scott. I am the Executive Director for the Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos. And today our subject is Simone, this lovely umbrella cockatoo right here. Yes. Oh, yeah? Are you sure? I see that you are sure. Her lifelong companion, Cause, will you come out behind there? Now there's Cause. Cause is also a female umbrella. And these two were sort of trapped in a room between a kitchen and a garage for 12 years together, with few toys and little attention. When they came to us, they both had terrible feather destructive behavior. But Simone had something unique, which we'll talk about in a little while. I've never seen another bird with this issue, although there may be out there. So we'll talk about what it's like to be Mrs. Lovett. That's not her favorite name, though. Actually, she prefers to be called Gozer the Gozerian. Yeah, that's what you like. That's what you like. Yeah, that's what you like. This is Peaches from episode 1, and this is Simone here with Cosma. This is Cause. We call her Cause or Kazi. They're like two peas in a pod.
Best of friends.
And actually they were kind of like peas in a pod. Mm-hmm. And this is Roman.
I love you. I love you.
Roman bird. Sugar. Hey, Sugar.
I think it'd be really good for the film.
Sugar.
If they would all say something or do something like Sal over there.
Hey, Sugar. Hi, Sugar.
Sugar girl.
Sugar girl. Hey, how about a tail flash? Hey, Sugar. Oh, I'm talking to Sugar. When I talk to Sugar, we get that kind of reaction.
No,
And that is Sal. Sal the salamander. Coco bird. Coco.
If she tosses her up and down, is that what she loves?
I wouldn't do that right now.
No, oh, okay, remember.
Not with the cat, not with the tripods
No,
in
yeah.
here. She's fully feathered now, but when we got her, not only did she have almost no feathers on her chest, her wings were all torn up, even her head was chewed up. Normally, when you see a bird that has its head chewed up, they don't have any feathers on their head, you are talking about a bird that has beak and feather disease. But in this case, that wasn't what was happening. She lived with someone else who's hiding their face. This one, Cause. She lived with Cause, and we're told, in a garage, or in a room between a garage and a kitchen, for 12 years, and with almost no attention by humans. So in that time, there got to be a little bit of a problem with one bird pulling the feathers off the other. It's an interesting thing because she actually has done something I've never even heard about in another bird. No, I haven't even heard about such a thing. She is actually not just a barber. She doesn't pull out other birds' feathers. She actually trains birds to pull out her feathers. But we'll get into that. When we first got her, she was shy and retiring. She actually would try to hide and run away if you tried to hold her. Or she would just hide, well, she'd get like this underneath your chin, like she does now, but now she's just doing it, seems like out of a comfort kind of feeling. At the when we first got her, she would do these kind of behaviors because she was actually afraid. She exhibited fear behavior we call fear, in that she would turn and run away. She would go into the back of a cage and just sit back there and tremble. And the only bird she actually showed much attention to was Cause, and she lived with Cause for a long time. She would come up and they would cuddle one against the other for a while, and then all of a sudden she would reach out and attack Cause. They'd go at each other and I'd have to separate them. Kind of like a married couple that's been living together for 20 years. She was always underweight. When we got her, she was roughly about 390 grams. And today she averages about 430, so she's gained quite a bit of weight. We have no idea what diet she was on. She didn't want to eat any of the food we were making. She didn't like the mash we were making. She would eat papaya and sunflower seeds primarily. So her diet was pretty poor. Her feather tone was pretty nasty. All these feathers were broken off. And it's nice. If it was cold instead of so warm in the room, that would feel really good. Wouldn't it? Then when we started dealing with those issues of her running to the back of the cage and running away from people, the first thing we did was, obviously with her feather destructive behavior and her reactions that seemed to be fearful, we gave her haloperidol at 0.09 milliliters. And within a few days, she started to be a little more observant of the world around her. We noticed that her feathers were starting to look better, where she wasn't picking at her own feathers. But oddly enough, there were still feathers on the bottom of the cage. Although I couldn't see her actually picking any feathers, there were still feathers on the bottom of the cage occasionally. That remained a mystery for quite a while. Why she was losing feathers even though she wasn't actually plucking her own. Right, right, Simone? Yeah? Yeah? What do you think? You little sweetheart.
If you are enjoying our videos, we hope that you can find it in your heart to support our work. It costs between $25,000 to $30,000 a year to care for our flock of heartbroken and abused birds. Most of our birds came with feather destructive disorder. Even a basic exam with blood work costs $300. Medical emergencies cost us thousands a year. We are a non-profit, and donations are tax-deductible to the full extent of the law. We need your support. Birds deserve a happy and healthy life. Become our patron at www.patreon.com/Chloe Sanctuary to support us on a per-video basis, or donate at our webpage today.
She was brought in by a former director that we had, and she came from her and Cause. They came from somewhere up north in Los Angeles, and we didn't get a heck of a lot of story. We did hear that they had been ignored for a long time because the wife who actually had the birds was sick. And so the husband just basically threw food at them and left them in that one corridor for 12 years before they find a home for her. Don't know what the wife's disease was, don't know any of the specifics. But actually, to work with birds like this, you don't need to know the specifics. That's not important. What's important is their current behavior. What they're doing now is what matters. With the psychotherapeutic drugs, she stopped plucking, but we eventually figured out that she was still being plucked by Cosma, who, Cosma at the time, had the name Cosmo, and after she laid an egg, that all went into the basket. So as time progressed and she stayed on the haloperidol, it became obvious she needed a little bit more of it than what the book would say according to her weight. And she got up to 0.12. And at that point, it became obvious that she was a little hellion. So her nickname now is Gozer the Gozerian, because she'll be just, like right now, she's starting to get pushy, aren't ya? Starting to get a little pushy. She'll get pushy. She'll get so pushy, she'll go after Salamander, who weighs, most of the time, it's a little bit over 1,000 grams. Sometimes up to as much as 1,200 grams. More than double her weight. And he will run away like a screaming child. She can look pretty terrible when she wants to. She can have she can have almost a countenance of evil when she wants to. But actually what that comes down to is that she became overly attached to Cecil, who you met in an earlier episode. And Cecil is like the Elvis of the bird world. So she became attached to him, and I honestly think, even though they haven't mated, that she considers him her mate. So in defending him, and in defending the territory that she sees as her own, the longer she's in a room, the more she starts to adopt it as her territory. And once it becomes her territory, then she will chase anyone out of it that she deems a problem. And that includes a big bird like Salamander. And this is mating behavior. This is what a female will do when she wants to mate. And
Did you just barely touched her and she started up again?
This is mating season. Fortunately, it only lasts from November until March. And
Oh dear.
So,
Dawn, quit tantalizing.
yes, I'm polyamorous. Simone was an introvert, and now she's extroverted. And with Cause, it's kind of gone the other way. Her friend of 12 years is more of an introvert now. Who knows? They both seem pretty acclimated to being here, though.
Tail dropping down, spreading out close to my hand. I was like, you sure this isn't Cecil? No, this is my Roman. Huh. Are you feeling very amorous today? So the folks at home that are watching this can see that's what a female in heat does, and this is what a male in heat does. Huh. He's never flirted with me like this before. That's usually Cecil's department.
Yeah, he's flirting with you for sure.
Hey, baby. I love you. I love you. You are a good boy. Tail flashing, do you call it?
Tail flashing.
Tail flashing. Except
Well,
after
it's
they...
actually with the male, it's tail fanning.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
The female
And
will flash her tail, but the male will fan his tail.
Mm-hmm. And he's holding
I've never seen a male flash its tail. I've seen a male
flash.
fan.
Oh.
So she's, as time has gone on, she's become quite the extrovert, and she often, because of territoriality, what a cute little voice you got. She takes charge, don't you, girl? Her favorite foods are papaya and papaya. And papaya. That's if she could live on just papaya, she would. Wouldn't be the best thing to do to her to have her eat just papaya, but she would definitely live on papaya if she could. She does eat the mash, don't you, girl? Yeah. You eat the mash? Yeah, you do. The main thing with her is to keep her from males that may show an interest in her and not let her get too close to males. Right now, I'm pretty sure she's bonded to Cecil. But if something else came along, since she's not allowed to actually make that bond permanent in the way that they usually do that, if you let her get too close to males, you could have issues. With her territoriality, she could easily start controlling the entire environment. She will fly up in someone's face if she thinks that they're, I don't know what she thinks, I can't read her mind, but it appears to be that if she's getting territorial and she sees that you're somehow stopping her from actually getting close to a bird she wants to, or you're stopping her from building a nest, you can have a problem. That's not the kind of a problem you want with birds. You don't want them mated to you or mated to another bird. Birds that are mated generally will ignore every other creature in the world except their mate. You've seen it yourself. Most people who are mated, who are actually, you're talking about a married couple, or a lot of people, they exclude the world when they come together. With birds, it's almost guaranteed. The only exception I have ever seen to that is Chloe and Snowball. They don't show that problem at all. You've gone in and petted Chloe and Snowball, right?
I have. They let me, and they're very, very friendly. So maybe they've been together for so long that,
Well, I think it's because they can't have babies. Chloe had the salfingo hysterectomy before I got her, so she can't have babies. They actually go in and they put 5 little clips inside, and it's a rather complicated surgery. Which is why you don't see requirements for birds to be neutered. It's a dangerous and complicated surgery. And the surgery she had is rarely done anymore. At the time she had the salfingo hysterectomy, there was a danger that you could kill a bird if you did a full hysterectomy. So instead they went in and put the 5 clips. One of those clips is actually broken loose inside of her. The last x-ray showed. But it's not a problem, according to Dr. Jenkins of the Avian and Exotic Animal Hospital in San Diego. This does occasionally happen, and it doesn't matter as long as they've been in there for a long enough period of time. If she was in your home, you would want to make sure she didn't get exposed to males and didn't try to mate with any males, unless you wanted to have territoriality. Which with her would include possibly flying into your face and attacking people that you can't come into your home. Not that she would hurt them, but it's pretty terrifying to see a bird flying right at your face. So it's better to keep the males separated from the females unless you actually have some way to ensure that they're not going to get bonded. As far as the long term with Simone, she's got a great personality. She's a lot of fun. She does say cockatoo. Can you say cockatoo? Can you say cockatoo? Come here.
Get him going.
Cockatoo? Can you say cockatoo? Come here. Oh, I know. You were just sitting up there. I know. Can you say... Snuggle. Can you say cockatoo? Can you say cockatoo?
Hi, cockatoo.
Say cockatoo.
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 Hi, cockatoo.
Cockatoo.
Hi, cockatoo.
Cockatoo. Cockatoo. Cockatoo. That's not cockatoo. That's ah.
Cockatoo?
I didn't say ah.
Oh, that feels good. Good girl. Hi, cockatoo. Hi, cockatoo.
Hi, Peach. Cockatoo.
Hi, cockatoo.
Cockatoo.
Hi, cockatoo.
Okay. One night I was sitting in the socialization chair in the main bird room, and there were a lot of birds out, as there always are, and I turned to the left and noticed there was a pile of feathers on the floor. Looking up, I saw Simone with Lorelei. Now, Lorelei is a 4-year-old umbrella that's never had any feather destructive issues. And Lorelei was pulling her feathers out. Now, what this one was doing was actually turning her head to allow Lorelei to pull her feathers out. So she was training a barber. Hence, if you've ever seen the the play Sweeney Todd. Why do we call her Mrs. Lovett? Because in that play, Mrs. Lovett gives the barber knives to Sweeney Todd. Now the way the cycle works is that if you yank a feather out, it hurts. So if you have a high anxiety and you're nervous, you're a nervous bird, and somebody yanks your feather out, then all of a sudden it releases your endorphins and you get high. So one night I was sitting and thank you, sweetheart. It's okay. I was sitting in the main bird room and with 3 or 4 birds. I looked over on the floor and I saw a pile of feathers. And I looked up and there's Lorelei, who's a 4-year-old umbrella. Lorelai's never shown any interest in pulling feathers. Her own or anyone else's. So it became obvious after observing this behavior that, yes, salamander, that she was training Lorelei to pull feathers. So all this time I'd assumed that Cause had an issue with pulling her feathers, but it looks to be more like she was actually training Cause to pull feathers. Now there's another whole problem. You've got a bird that's perfectly normal. It's been raised so that it doesn't actually have any issues with feather destructive behavior. And now you've got a bird that is being taught that it's good to pull feathers. So I had to untrain Lorelei and retrain this little one, Simone, not to get other birds to yank feathers.
That had to be some time consuming.
Yeah, it's something else when you're sitting and you're observing and there's no problems, and then you look over and there's a pile of feathers. A neat pile too. It was only maybe a foot in diameter. Just a pile of feathers. Counted out over 30 feathers. I think it was 32, 33 feathers.
Were they coming from all over the body? Like anywhere?
Just pulling it from everywhere.
No special
No,
spot?
everywhere. Chest, back, crest.
Wherever looked like a good one to pull out.
Well, and when you look at her, what she would do is like this, like here, okay, there. Like, it was really obvious from her body language. She was presenting to have feathers pulled. So that's not in any book. So what do you do when you have no pattern from anyone else?
Exactly. That's why we need you here to teach us.
Well, yeah, but I didn't have a clue what to do. So what I did was I just took her from 0.12 on the haloperidol up to 0.14. Because if she didn't have the urge, if you could drop the dopamine level in the brain enough, she wouldn't have the urge to pull her feathers.
Right.
So,
Did that help?
yeah, it worked.
Excellent.
It
Not
worked.
too heavily medicated? Just
Well, she's medicated now. She doesn't look out of it or anything.
No, not at all.
This is something too. You'll see people on Facebook and on Twitter and other places on the web. They'll say that, "Oh, I don't give my bird, any medicine because it turns them into zombies."
Now you be careful with your dosage.
Yeah. Well, if and this is a zombie. If you want a zombie, come
Here's a
here.
zombie. That is not a zombie.
She's on a dose that will probably be about right for a Moluccan.
Really?
Yep.
Holy moly.
And she's a zombie, aren't you? Can you zombify me, please? Cockatoo? Yeah?
If you are enjoying our videos, we hope that you can find it in your heart to support our work. It costs between $25,000 to $30,000 a year to care for our flock of heartbroken and abused birds. Most of our birds came with feather destructive disorder. Even a basic exam with blood work costs $300. Medical emergencies cost us thousands a year. We are a non-profit, and donations are tax deductible to the full extent of the law. We need your support. Birds deserve a happy and healthy life. Become our patron at www.patreon.com/Chloe Sanctuary to support us on a per video basis, or donate at our webpage today.
So when people say they don't want a zombie, this is a zombie.
Oh, that's us still with Willa. We're still stuck on the fence on that after all these years.
I'm not sure that it's going to do much good.
Right, like you said.
Yeah. She's talking about the umbrella cockatoo they have. Which
Our female umbrella, that's 30, oh, she'll be 31 this year.
Yeah, her and Chloe are almost the same age.
Yeah, I think Chloe's a year older.
Yeah, about a year older.
Well, we've had her since August of 2000, and she was already wearing, the record around her neck. And then we changed it over to that lighter weight Tupperware bed. But so at least 15, 16, 17, 18 years? 18 years is too long. I just can't get her to stop her plucking.
Well, the plucking isn't the worst part. Unfortunately, Wilhelmina is a mutilator. She'll go for her feet.
Mm-hmm.
And so the danger of her chewing off her feet would indicate leaving on the collar. Because if the medicine didn't work.
Because it was actually, remember it was the feet first. It was the feet, only the feet in the beginning. And then she just progressed to feather plucking. But now when Tucci presents, I was just listening to what you said about these two, how they present. Like, oh, here, get me. Tucci always presents her crest to Willa. And that's where the preening, an over-preening will take place. And sometimes, if I have to run to the bathroom real quick and they're out together, I come back and there's a couple of drops of blood and I have to separate them. She gets a little overzealous in the preening department. Yeah.
Well, she does that with herself, so it's normal. And presenting the head, as you mentioned, the presenting of the head feathers is normal. They can't preen their own heads, so any bird will present.
So that's a normal movement.
That's normal. Presenting other parts of the body is not normal unless it's mating.
Very good. That makes sense.
So if you see two birds, even if it's two females, and one's got their wing out, and the other one's, you got to break that up. Whether it be heterosexual or homosexual behavior, you don't want it. So you want to stop that kind of behavior. It's okay as long as they're preening heads. They start preening anywhere else, they're going to get too excited. The bird's going to get too excited, and a bird that gets too excited can have a cloacal prolapse. And
basically, what is that?
That's when the internal organs, actually, the muscles that hold everything in, because they have
female parts,
male or female, doesn't matter.
All parts, whatever.
It's the part where they poop. It's the part where they
lay an egg.
Yeah, they lay an egg, or it's pretty much everything, all tied into one. And what happens is the muscle tone in that area gets weak, and then all the internal organs fall out because they have something unique. They actually have everything kind of open up and drop, and they let everything out in about a second, and then they close it up, and they're done. There isn't even any bacteria on the outside of the area normally.
That's amazing.
It's about the cleanest you'll ever find in an animal.
But what you called it was called, again, say it?
Cloacal prolapse.
Cloacal.
Yeah,
that one.
If you don't like the word cloaca, you can say vent. But basically, it vents everything. It vents the poop. It's the area where they mate. Everything's in that one. What? What? Are you gonna turn me into a zombie? Go ahead. But it's a dangerous thing because there are 6 operations for that. The first 3 are on the outside, and the next 3 are on the inside. And at any time they can become infected in that process. And you have maybe a couple of years at the most.
That's horrid.
Because there is no actual cure for it. So you want to avoid that if at all possible. And it's not easy to do. And if you overstimulate them, they get to work in those muscles, and you'd think that would make them stronger, but it doesn't. And we have one bird here right now, Bob, who has a problem with his cloaca. It's getting weak. The muscles he's actually using his gut muscles more than he's using his peristaltic movement to go to the bathroom. So I love that euphemism. He's never done anything like that in the bathroom. A shower, maybe. But in order for him to poop, he has to strain a little bit. So the diet he's on is, everybody's on the same diet, but it really does help make sure that they actually they produce enough poop and they don't have to strain to bring it out. So
Good, that's good.
and she likes it, don't you?
Hmm.
You like it? You like it? Hmm. So her prognosis is good. She's gonna, as long as she's kept away from males and not allowed to feel mated. And she's getting a little too clingy right now, so I'm gonna kind of let her go here a bit. She starts putting her wing up on me, and you know that she's just a little bit too clingy. So when they start to cover you with their wing, they're either thinking of you as a child or they're thinking of you as a mate. So you don't want it to go either way.
Oh.
She should have a good mash. She does eat some pellets, but she seems to be a little bit more interested in the mash. She does like almonds. There's something I forgot to mention. She loves almonds. She gets an almond in the morning and an almond at night.
Oh, yum.
She expects to see it in the cage. If you were to put her in a cage and not have an almond in there at night, she would be on the cage staring at you and crying.
Aww.
I've
That's rude.
done that a couple of times. That's how I know.
Babies have to have their special treats.
And every bird has something special. It's good. If it isn't with Bob, if he doesn't have his cinnamon sticks and one piece of papaya, then he's right on the cage. Then he's pacing and looking at you like, my night cage doesn't. Where's the sticks? And with Bob, he won't preen without those sticks. He will not preen himself at all. So he takes sticks and jams them in his feathers, and he sticks it on top of his tail. And he bounces them all over the place. But with her, the almond. She's got an almond, and if you were going to put her on a training program, if I'm training her at any time, then I would not give her an almond in the morning, and I'd break almond into little pieces and use it to train her, because that really is her favorite thing, is almonds. With her, it's important to keep your eyes on her to see what she's getting into. She's a keyboard. You wouldn't want her in a room with a computer if you walked out. If I'm in this room, which has a computer keyboard, and I walk out that door, 2 seconds later you hear bing, bang, bing, bing, because she's all on that keyboard. And she'll pull the keys right off of it. And you know these birds are intelligent because she's doing something totally different. I walk out of the room, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's the opportunity, and she's right to it. And you know she's alert. How could she possibly be anything but alert in a situation like that where she just runs for the keyboard the second you leave? And she's up here preening with cause, and the next thing you walk out that door, and the next thing you hear is bing, 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 bing on the keyboard. So you wouldn't want to leave her in a room with other birds for more than a minute. She'll chase Peaches. Oh, very nice display, Peaches. Oh, nice display. Oh, come on, Peaches. More. Pretty girl. Oh, yeah. I'll pet you on the head a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, that was a nice display, but he deserves a pet. But I'm not going to get you all fired up, kid. You're already vibrating. One important point with her is that you want to make sure that she isn't separated from Cause. These two should stay together. They were together all that time.
Like 12 years in that little room.
Yeah, and when she went, Cause actually spent some time with Deb and Dan.
It was about 3 weeks.
Yeah, and
Crazy.
she really doesn't do well apart from them. They have their issues. They will fight each other. They don't really hurt each other, but they will go at each other. Mm-hmm. But they don't do. They have their little bonding things that they do, and they get close to each other, and they kind of expect to see the other one around.
I get that. That's when we were learning about maybe we just can't foster any babies out anymore because she cried, and between Danny and I, we were home a lot. There was a short gap when we weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she cried and she cried and she cried, and I'd pull her out of the cage and hold her. But as soon as I put her back, she'd cry, and I'm thinking nobody's going to want to deal with this. I can deal with it because I'm used to it. You too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, her and Cause are definitely, which in flocks they normally stay together, so there is no separation. So they really have the flock mind going between those two. This little girl needs to be given a special diet of mash, which has rowdy bush mixed in with it, and vegetables. And you can see that in Bob's mash video on our Chloe Sanctuary YouTube channel. She loves almonds, and that's one of her special treats. And she loves papaya as well. Given a choice between the two, she'll usually go for almonds. So if you're training her at any time, whether it be to reduce a behavior or just to learn a new behavior, a little piece of almond is your best bet. You have to make sure that you check her weight, which you should do with every bird, but you should check her weight every day to make sure she's not losing weight. She's tiny as it is, running anywhere from 420 to 440 grams. If she's given too much attention, she may lay eggs, so you don't want to do that. You pet her on the head, but if she starts shaking or any other female mating behaviors, you need to break that off and let her go play with Cause. She shouldn't be allowed to play with Cause in a room by themselves because they will go at each other's feathers or they will fight each other. To keep a strong rein on her medicine, and her medicine needs to be kept at anywhere from 0.14 to 0.11 milliliters. That's the 2 milligram per milliliter solution, the concentrate. That's a little high for most umbrellas at her weight, but if you go below that, you're going to have a bird that's tearing her feathers out. And who are you?
I'm Karina Graham. I am the event coordinator and one of the directors for the Koi Sanctuary.
And what got you interested in birds?
I've been a bird watcher for a few years now. My Aunt Lori got me into that. Shortly after I started becoming interested in that, I got my first pet bird, a cockatoo, just from a backyard breeder, a friend of a friend. I knew nothing about owning pet birds. And that was about 14 years ago. And birds are like potato chips. You can't just get one. So shortly after I got him, a few years after, I started getting a few more, and especially after becoming involved with the Koi Sanctuary, helping out with them and seeing how wonderful they can all be, and adopting some, finding others were birds that neighbors found in the backyard and flying around, and ended up bringing to me because they didn't know what else to do with it. So my husband and I currently have 4 birds at home and one that we are birdie sitting long term.
So did you have any plans to use your bird knowledge?
I do. I'm going to school right now for zoology, and I want to get into animal behavior research, specializing in birds.
And you works with a group of people that works with birds, don't you? I mean, don't you work with the Zoological Society?
I volunteer for that, yeah, with the San Diego Zoo Global, and doing different projects depending on what they need me for. A lot of times lately I've gotten into the research departments, which is really exciting. Right now I'm working on one measuring population densities of different animals in Peru. Before that I was doing burrowing owl behavior here in San Diego. Just analyzing photos and tracking how often the parent owls feed the baby owls in their nests. And it's really interesting because you get to know these families of owls and what they like to do, and realize that even in the wild, just like our companion parrots, everyone's a different individual.
How complex would you say birds are? I mean,
Extremely. As complex as people are. Absolutely.
How easy for the average person to understand?
Not very. Not very. I mean, just look at parrots. A lot of people think that they're just a pretty thing they can put in a cage in the corner of the room and have it be fine, like a goldfish, and then they get home and realize they were sorely mistaken. So, they're really complex animals. They're very intelligent. A lot of research has been done on parrots and the corvid family, crows, jays, ravens. And a lot of the studies are coming out saying they're as smart as dolphins, even chimpanzees, even human toddlers. They're extremely, extremely intelligent animals, extremely complex. In some studies, they even do better than human children have in different tests. So.
Personally, what's the most complex thing you've ever seen a bird do? The most obviously intelligent thing?
I was the crazy neighbor who had a bird feeder out just for crows. We had a lot of crows around. I'm sure the neighbors loved it. But I just had a big, terracotta plant saucer, and I would put leftovers in there, or, leftover bird seed, or basically anything. They eat it, everything. But the crows around our apartment got to recognize me, and it's been proven with other studies before that they can recognize facial features and know who's who. And these crows, especially this one pair and their offspring, I'd go outside when I'd feed them and I'd call them, and then they'd show up a few minutes later, sometimes even a few seconds later. Sometimes when I'd come home from work or something like that, I'd be walking through the parking lot to the apartment and they would see me and they would let out a special call. It sounds like a little dog bark. It's really endearing. And I've only ever heard crows do it to their mates or their family members, each other. And I don't know exactly what it means, but I felt very special that they recognized me as a nice person and maybe even part of their little social group.
So would you recommend that people have birds in their homes?
No, I wouldn't. I love them, but I don't think they're suited for our homes. I think the ones that people have bred and in the past captured from the wild and brought into a human environment and don't know how to survive out on their own, of course we should just let them go. We have a responsibility as the human race to continue to take care of them. But I don't think breeding more of them and selling them to Joe Schmo on the street who doesn't know anything about them at all is a good idea for the people or for the birds. Personal opinion. I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with me, but it's just my observation.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Karina.
Let me throw one in real quick. Well, we finally sent a postcard to Danny's dad. The postcards that you took, the pictures from last Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful picture. We got Tucci and Willa and little Bella on his shoulder. And I couldn't wait for him to get that because I wanted to do it last year and I never did. So he got it, and then Danny finally talked to him like a week later. And Danny's like, "So what did you think of our babies in the picture?" And his dad goes, "Yeah, what do you feed those things? Rats and mice?" I was like, that's your average response.
Yeah.
From most people.
Yeah, they don't have a clue.
Yeah.
Most people think they eat seeds, and that's the worst thing you can feed them. Mm-hmm. And they can have up to 15% in their diet. So, Justin is one of our cameramen today, and he lives with birds, but he's not what you'd call a bird person. So how do you feel living with birds? I mean, what's it like to live with them?
It's loud. It's not quiet at all. They're messy. They are messy. They can be a lot of fun. You do spend time with them, and they do have their own little attitudes and stuff. They are like any other animal in that respect, that they have their personality. And so sometimes that part's cool. That's a lot of fun, but you really got to watch out, because they'll destroy everything you have if you don't keep it put away or covered or whatnot. And it's a lot to watch out for, because it's so much mess, so much destruction, and so loud. It's different. I've always had cats. And now I got birds.
So what's the worst experience you've ever had with a bird?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's never been anything like unbearable, and nothing like that. We do have 4 small birds, so it's not like they do a ton of damage like these big birds do. I sit and watch them splinter these, pieces of wood, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know what they wouldn't break. But I'd say it's just the constant cables getting eaten into, and then I worry because some stuff's plugged in and I gotta kill themselves doing this. And
Or set a fire.
yeah, or set a fire. But so I wouldn't say there's anything that it was just terribly unbearable. It's just, on a daily basis, they'll sit up on a door and they'll start chewing on the door. It's like, you gotta watch out for that stuff, and it all adds up because you gotta replace it all, and you gotta now figure out how to cover it all up, and nothing unbearable yet, so so I wouldn't get rid of them.
So what have you seen that was endearing that they did? I mean, the kind of things that they do that you find endearing, or you've seen that other people find endearing?
Well, I mean, like, I think it's kind of brave that these tiny little things let you scratch their head, Like, the way they look, unless you've ever touched the bird's head and scratched their head and neck, and, you don't realize their neck is like this thin. And when I first was scratching the cockatoo's head, Brian, and he finally would let me, and I'm like, holy cow, his neck is like half the size of a regular straw. It's so tiny and brittle, and, for him to just, put his head down and just give me all his trust whatsoever, that's kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's really endearing, and how they always want to be with you. They just always want to be on you somehow, even if it's just on your shoulder, sit on your head, they just want to be around you. And again, it's, a lot like dogs, I think. Cats, love cats to death. They could care less about you half the time. They'll do their own thing. You don't even touch them. But birds seem to want to be around you a lot more, than the cats do. So for that respect, it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Great. So anything else you'd like to say?
Don't get 4.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you so much for watching our video, and we hope to see you again soon. Say bye. Please visit our website at www.chloesanctuary.org. That's Chloe spelled CHLOE. You can support us on a per-episode basis by visiting www.patreon.com, that's Patreon /Chloe Sanctuary.